Are you unhappy and feeling stuck in your life? Do you hate the mirror because you don't know where you look? I'm Kathi Tait the Baldwarrior. When I was 8 years old, my sister died, and not knowing how to deal with it, I repressed my feelings to avoid more pain. A year later, my hair started falling out. That was devastating and scary, and it started years of doctor's visits and experimented on as they didn't know how to fix me. This led me down a path of feeling not normal. I felt like a freak, and the bullying I experienced cemented my view of myself. So for 30 years, I hid myself, ashamed of how I looked, trying to just fit in and be like everybody else. I allowed abusive partners into my life. I drank too much and self-sabotaged because I didn't believe I was worth it anymore. The only good thing in my life was my son, and he kept me going when I didn't think I'd make it. When I turned 40, I realized I was the only one responsible for my happiness. So I went on a journey to discover how to find self-acceptance and self-love and take my power back. Now, I want to share this knowledge with the world and teach others how to use mindset tools and techniques so you too can find true self-love and begin to live the life of your dreams. Now, my dream life is living my passion, traveling the world to educate and eradicate social stigmas and bullying and bring about change everywhere I go. Together, we can change the world. I will show you how to own your shit, embrace your fears, love your skin, and defy social norms. Take the first step today. Join me on my Facebook page, Baldwarrior, share my journey, and find out how I can help you transform your life.
All right. Welcome everyone to this week's Help Me Rhonda show. It is so great to see everyone. Wow, what a powerful video. That is a setup of exactly what we are going to be talking about today and our very special guest. Guys, I'm Rhonda Swan. Of course, I'm the hostess with the mostest, if you will, of today's Help Me Rhonda show, where we talk about creating sexy brands and turning them into profit-making machines. I bring on incredible guests to my show that not only have taken their life's story and their passion, but they've turned it into impact in the world. And to me, that is what a sexy brand is all about. It's about someone that knows who they are, what they do, and how they can help change other people's lives with their work. So I am super excited for today's show. So without any further ado, Kathi Tait, how are you, my dear?
I'm wonderful. Hi, Rhonda. How you going? Hi, everybody out there.
Yeah, it's so great to have you coming in all the way from New Zealand. We're sitting here in Bali right now, but let me introduce you really quick, Kathi, and then we're going to talk a bit about your story, and I want everyone to really embrace this. And certainly, if you are here and there is, the topic that Kathy's going to talk about today is about imposter syndrome, about bullying, about self-sabotage, the things that we do to ourselves that stop us from being that true human being that we're meant to be. And if you know anyone that can benefit from today's show, please share this. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you for being here. But again, please tag and share this because we want more people to hear this message. But before we do start, I want you guys to really understand who Kathi really is. She's called also the Baldwarrior, author, speaker, transformational coach. And she's also a management accountant and the founder of Baldwarrior Movement. She's the winner and finalist of several business awards, over 15 years of experience, shaping and guiding SMEs to grand success. Her biggest strengths are business building and strategies, analysis, utilizing systems, and helping other people and companies really grow their business and improve who they are as a company and as a human inside of a company. And it's such a big deal. She's had big awards that she's won. And we're just so excited to have you here, Kathi, because not only talking on this subject because of your experience, but also because of your story. And I'm really moved, and that's, we were obviously, I had the benefit of helping craft that story at our event here in Bali just this last year. And so I'd love for you to come out and kind of introduce yourself and let people know more of where you came from and why. What is this bald warrior? What does this even mean?
Thanks, Rhonda, so much. First of all, it's such a privilege to be on your show. I feel very honoured, so thank you for that. And hi, everybody out there. I am Kathi Tait the Baldwarrior, and it really started for me when I was just a child. My sister had leukemia and died, and in our family, our white culture, emotions were just suppressed. So we never really got taught how to deal with the pain, and I guess I just internalized it, because a few months later, my hair started falling out. And we lived in quite a small town at the time. Nobody had ever heard of alopecia. They didn't know what was happening to me. And despite many, many years of doctors, nothing was ever really able to be done about it. And as a result, through primary school and high school, I got really badly bullied and ostracized. And this really affected my self-esteem. So I grew up actually believing I was a freak, that I was abnormal. And then I spent my whole adult life up until I was 40 just trying to be normal and feel like everybody else, because I felt internally like such a fraud. And that's where the imposter syndrome comes in, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Wow.
But as I got older and turned 40, I had a bit of an epiphany. And I realized that I kept putting my happiness in other people's hands and allowing what they thought and their judgments to form who I was. And with
Kathi, can I interrupt you here? Because I'd love to stop. I want to interrupt you here because there's so much here. And thank you first off for sharing this. I mean, this is a big thing to be sharing. So your age, your sister passed away. At what age were you when your hair started to fall out and you found out you actually had alopecia? What was that age?
So I was 8 when she died, and it was about a year later. So I was around 9 when my hair started falling out. And it fell out in patches, yeah? It was really weird.
Well, that's really scary in the first place. But even the fact of being a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old and your sister passing away, I mean, how did you, come through that? Because I know there's a lot of people in the world, right, that they're losing their family members, or they have. But you were a really young person. What was going on for you at that time?
Yeah, look, I remember like it was yesterday, my mum pulling me into the laundry and telling me that she was going to die.
Wow.
She was just so ill, and had been since she was 4. Treatments had worked off and on. She'd gone into remission and come back out. We even moved from New Zealand to Australia to try and get better treatment for her. I was tested as a bone marrow transplant and matched, but it never happened because she went into remission, and then she got sick again so fast we couldn't do it. And I think somewhere in my young mind, there was this element of I could have saved her, which perhaps logically wasn't the case. But how I came through it is we repressed it. We got all this sympathy for a few weeks, and then nobody just talked about it ever again, really. And
wow.
I also remember talking to my grandmother and asking her, why God would do something like that, because at the time we were churchgoers. And she really had no answer for us. And so I didn't know how to cope with it. And I guess
wow. It's and just this hearing that, to think like what a young person is going through. I mean, you make me think immediately, right, about Hanalei. She's 12, but to even experience or understand something like that, and then when your family doesn't understand it either, and they don't know how to articulate it or cope with it as well. I mean, here you are as a young person, and these are like your most impressionable years. These are your years when you are becoming, who you see yourself as and how you are relatable to others. And I mean, how many people can relate to that? Those are the times when you're supposed to have your most strength in your life. And here now, all of a sudden you're 9 and you're just having to pretend like, was she your twin sister?
No, she was only just a year older than me, though, 14
Wow.
months.
So
And
she,
I've added this, Rhonda, at 12 years old, my father died. So I
wow.
kind of got a double whammy. And my
Yeah.
poor mother, she just shut down emotionally. She
Yeah, I
couldn't cope.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. So now let's go into this then. So you're going through this and then your hair starts to fall out. I mean, first off, these are also not only times where you need your support system and you want to trust and love who's around you. Now your sister's gone and then your hair begins to fall out. Do you think that was related to stress and fear and all of these bodily things that you were holding inside of yourself?
There's a connection medically to childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Initiating physical diseases, and I myself believe that I manifested it physically because it had to come out somehow. And maybe the hair loss, one, I think it was a pre-life choice because my whole life has been about self-esteem and self-acceptance. And two, I think it was connected to her, especially because as a child with cancer going through leukemia, she also lost her hair in treatment. So I think there's a double whammy there as well.
So that we can physically, as humans, we can actually create and manifest pains and problems in our bodies without us even realizing that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And it's such a powerful topic, Kathi, and it's obviously having, Hanalei, I think about that, like what goes inside of our mind and what we experience on a daily basis, and as parents, we do our best. I know, your son, Chris, was kind of part of that support for you. Talk with me about how now, obviously, you went through so many things and bullying, and then you begin to self-sabotage yourself as an adult. And then you have this baby. How did you go from that moment of, all this doubt and fear and all these problems to now I have a child? What do I do now?
Oh, that was amazing. I was actually with a very violent partner at the time as well because I had no self-esteem. I didn't think I was worth anymore.
Wow.
I got entangled with this man, 17 years older than me, who was extremely manipulative, and sometimes psychotic, bipolar, something. He was just nuts, and he also beat me very badly many times. And I actually did go into a cathedral and pray for a child, just because I wanted somebody to love unconditionally in my life. And this was at a low point where I was very trapped with this guy. He had isolated me from family and friends, and I was at an extremely low point. And then I became pregnant, which I was extremely happy about, but at the same time freaking out because I was only 21. I had my 21st birthday when I was 6 months pregnant. And I didn't know what was to come. Like, it was such a period of what is going on? What do I do? How do I cope with this? But when I had him, that baby came, so much changed for me. And all the mothers out there will know this and relate to this, that having a child absolutely changes you forever. You have this overwhelming unconditional love and protection kick in. And it was him that saved me. He came into my life and I realized what I was doing and how terrible it was, and that I had to get out for his sake because I couldn't allow him to grow up with this person.
It just makes me really think about that. And you just bring me back to the moment when we found out we were losing everything, and Hanalei was just born. And I, for a long time, I actually thought that my stress levels is what brought her early. She was 33 days early, and I was really guilty for it. And it was kind of brought to my awareness just a couple of years ago that could you ever imagine that she actually just came to be that guiding light and to be that support system for you. It wasn't that you stressed her out or caused pain. It was that she came for you. And I really, truly do believe that. I think that, our kids and things that happen to our life happen to us, because it's what was meant to be. And I feel the same way about Hanalei, and I know that you do about Christopher. It's like you were able to then now see who you were. It was almost like you were looking in a mirror and going, well, I was being that for myself, but now I can't be that for my child. Is that what was going on with you?
Yeah, it kind of was. And I just got full body goosebumps when you said that, because that's it, exactly the effect it had on me. He being there made me realize what I was doing to myself wasn't good enough. And
Yeah.
for me to allow it to happen to him was just something that I couldn't do. And I reached inside and I figured out I had these deep values that I'd never really looked at and assessed. But there was no way in hell I was going to allow that innocent little baby boy to go through this life that I'd got myself into. And so he became my motivation to change everything.
Wow, that's so powerful. I mean, how many can relate to this? I know those that are listening to this, is like, there's so many parallels that we all have in our life of like how we made that transition decision to be completely different. And, you know, I can always relate to that same moment. I remember going, well, you know, here I am, I'm stressed out, I'm freaking out and thinking, oh, we lost all this money and now I'm not going to be the person for my daughter. And I thought, wait a minute, I get to choose who I want to be for her. And I deserve to still be that same person. And what's in my bank account or who I was before does not represent who I am. Right. And we can change. I think that's the greatest part about, you know, life, is that we can actually change tomorrow. We can do something completely different tomorrow and be that powerful source. And, you know, so let's kind of move in, because now you've gone through all of this. I mean, you've dealt with bullying. I mean, goodness, you lost your hair. You've grown up as the Baldwarrior, who's now this amazing, sexy brand that inspires people all over the world to love themselves and to, you know, to look at themselves in a whole different light and to, you know, help support businesses and being so unique in that space. I mean, this is a true story about just really acceptance, isn't it? And so you said a couple things that I want to bring up is because I want to lean into this conversation when it comes to this imposter syndrome and how that is created and how many people are probably going through this on a daily basis as well. Once you like peek through and you feel like, okay, I got it. But then the baby gets older, they're on their own life. And all of a sudden, all that self-worth of what I'm being for this human being is gone. So now I got to do it for myself again. So did you find yourself in that trap of like re-looking and going, now who am I going to do it for?
That's exactly what happened, Rhonda. You know, I spent his life educating myself, 8 years of education I put myself through so that I could support us without needing anybody else in our lives. I worked really hard, but the whole way through I suffered from imposter syndrome. And when he ended up leaving home at 18, the only thing I was absolutely adamant about was that I'd done a good job raising him. And then I realized, well, shit, if I'm not his mother, who the hell am I?
Right.
And what the hell am I going to do now? And I actually fell into almost a depression, I would say, for a couple of years, because by now I'd entangled myself with another toxic guy, right? Christopher left home and I followed this guy I was in love with to the other side of the country so that Chris could go off and fly and learn to be a man and spread his wings without mummy in the way. And so I trotted off after this guy in love. And he was really toxic too in a lot of ways. And I had to really examine myself again and go, well, who is Kathi if she's not Chris's mum? Because I'd lived for him for those 18, 19 years, if you count the pregnancy. Everything was about him, making his life better, being the best mum I could be, being the best version I could be, supporting us, being independent, you know, getting a home to live in. And then suddenly it was all gone. And at the same time as this all happened, I actually went bankrupt and lost everything myself. I had 3 houses and I lost everything. So not only did I lose my son, moved to the other side of the country, entangled myself with another toxic guy, I actually lost everything I'd worked for those 20 years at the same time. It was mind-blowing. And I fell into another black hole. It was really, really tough.
Yeah, you know, and I know there's so many people that can relate to this. And it's funny, you listen from the outside and you're like, wow, how could you have done that? Right? How could you have done that? You see, you know where you were, you've grown out of this. But it's so crazy how we actually do these kind of things to ourselves to get us to the point where we have to refight again. I mean, we had the same thing. I remember losing everything and literally even several times after doing stupid mistakes. And then you realize, wait a minute, why am I keep putting myself back to the start? Am I not deserving of being ultimately successful or ultimately happy or having an amazing relationship? So let's talk about that, Kathi, because now I know you have, dedicated your life to inspiring others and women and men to totally be confident with who they are, to get their finances in gear because you've been 25 years in accounting and working with businesses and keeping these structures together. But why is it that we can self-sabotage ourselves? What do we, where do we go and why does this happen? And then I want to dig into this imposter syndrome because I think there's so many people that can relate to this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually the whole thing is often because of a very pervasive self-doubt. Deep inside, we've got this doubt and this lack of true self-esteem and self-acceptance. And that can come from a lot of places and be caused by a lot of different things. But I think the core of it is probably the same for most of us. And that's why we have that sneaky little voice in our head that appears and tells us we're not good enough or we can't do it or we're not worth it or all those things. It's all from this pervasive self-doubt that I think exists in us. It's a human trait. And the people that don't have it probably are more likely to be narcissists or egomaniacs. I think for the most pretty common.
That's true. The three triads. So don't, anyone that's listening right now, don't think, oh my gosh, I'm like that and I'm hiding. Look, you should be, because all of us go into this point of, am I worthy? Right? I mean, goodness, we build brands, right? I've launched over now. We're at I think we're at 114 new brands and products we've launched in 26 months. Do you realize the amount, and you are one of them, right? The amount of amazing human beings that have these great products and then all of a sudden they don't let it go or they don't release it to the world. And I'm like, what's going on here? You've done so much work. But it's the inner doubt, right, that comes in, that creeps in. So let's go into that. Why does that happen to us? And how can we break that barrier? Because I know that is something, all we need is that one little way, that little insight to say, yes, you can actually get through this and come out on the other side and then be totally aware of it when it appears.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, often one of the reasons is rooted in our childhood. I think that a lot of us have insecurities from back then, whether it was other kids or whether it was because we were criticized. But as you were saying earlier, talking about Honolulu, the youngest years are our formative years, and they actually form us and start building who we're going to be in our minds. And if that's never challenged or nurtured positively, then this self-doubt is nurtured instead. And it takes on lots of forms, but basically it forms these limiting beliefs. And I think that all of these things, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, all of the things that we do to ourselves are rooted in the same place. All these fears that we have are rooted back to those those formative years and what we learnt about ourselves and what we believed about ourselves. And unless you're teaching your children actively any different, it's just going to be the same generation after generation. And think about society too, back when we were children. So, 30 years ago when we were in our formative years, society was a lot different. It wasn't as nurturing. It wasn't as accepting. It wasn't as open and vulnerable as it is today. There were very strict social norms in place and our parents followed them. And that was, what they followed because they didn't know any different. And that is why it's so important to have the conversations now for the next generation and their kids. Otherwise, nothing is going to change.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. I mean, I remember even when we decided to leave and start traveling with Hanale, she was a year, here we are living in this, corporate kind of style environment. All of our friends are corporate jobs. They all got their, kids. And, we all have these beliefs of how a child should be raised. They should be in school. They shouldn't be drug around in different places. And they're going to have attachment problems and all this stuff. And, that's hard. You have to defy that and realize that, all this chatter of everyone's opinions are none of yours. They don't matter. And they're none of your business. And to look at what you want as a person, as a family, and to be able to break through that. Now, so can you give some of our, some advice on anyone that is going through that, whether maybe they've got kids that have gone through some trauma, or maybe they personally have gone through trauma and keep finding themselves like on that success ladder, the entrepreneur trail is crazy, but some people go all the way up, drop. It's like, why does that keep happening? And how can they, level up and lift those levels to overcome that constant sabotage?
Right. Yeah, this is a really important point, Rhonda, and this is exactly why I have mindset and coaching alongside systems and strategy, because without one, the other can't succeed on its own. You need to have both in alignment. And I think that you have to go back to basics. You have to start examining your self-beliefs, the way you talk to yourself, the way you think about yourself, the way you believe in yourself. And if you aren't doing those things in a positive way, then you're going to keep self-sabotaging over and over again. So it's back to basics. It's back to personal development and really getting deep within yourself and examining those beliefs that were formed as a young person and whether they're positively or negatively affecting you. And I do believe that that is really the key. If you can unravel some of that and retrain your mind to think in a different way, then I think that you can overcome all of it.
Yeah, like I think of, entrepreneurs. So for instance, here's someone who decides to create a program, right? Or they package up their knowledge, so they start, I want to be a coach, or actually I know something, so I want to help people. And then they get in this space of, wait a minute, do I really know enough? Do I really know enough? Or am I just pretending? I mean, I see this happen often, and I'll tell you, I'll be totally transparent. I quit my job 13 years ago. I have a master's degree, 25 years in business and marketing and advertising. I've been speaking for 10 years. I ran, a $500 million worth of advertising budget, sold $50 million online, and still I have doubts on certain things that you do. And, we're human. And that's, it doesn't matter what and how you do it, there's always going to be someone that has something to say, or we might look and say, oh my gosh, I can't have my own show because I don't talk as well as they do, or they're going to judge and say, oh, there's someone way better than you. And that's what imposter syndrome really is. It's like you inside this amazing bubble, you're in a creation bubble, and then you're like, oh, this is what I know, but that's what they're probably thinking. And am I good enough? I just got to back out. So I keep self-sabotaging myself because all I see is somebody that's done it one day more than me, and then they're probably better. But that's the thing about life, right? Like someone's always going to be better than you because someone's going to be older than you, or they're going to do one more thing. But all you have to do is know that you're doing your best now. And that's the one thing about this whole idea of this imposter syndrome. Like kids get it a lot, and that's where bullying comes from. Bullying stops kids from believing in themselves, right? And if your child, if you don't believe in yourself, and that your kid is observing you starting and then stopping, or just crying about stuff that's too hard, and then he did this to me. Your kid is watching a movie picture with their favorite actor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
right?
Yes. So true, Rhonda. Monkey see, monkey do. That's our kids. And I think the biggest compliment I've ever had from my son is him telling me that I'm the strongest person he knows. And that makes me feel great because
Yeah.
through all of the shit that I endured and suffered through and didn't really get myself out of in time, many times over, I did prove to myself and teach him to keep going and to never give up. So I'm grateful that somewhere inside me, I had that strength to keep being able to do that, even though I didn't always know what I was doing, and usually didn't know how it was going to turn out. I just knew that
I always think like when the
had to keep going for it. But to talk about
no, go ahead. You keep going. Just make the statement of when the student's ready, the teacher appears, but sometimes our kids become our teacher.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. They absolutely do. They're just such an amazing part of life, and like I said, he was my motivation and my inspiration to keep trying to be better and to keep moving forward, because I didn't like who I was becoming, you know. One sec. Sorry.
Bless you.
All talking. Yeah, and I think that there are steps that we can do, you know, when we fall into imposter syndrome, and it is so common, over 70% of people. And I talk a lot about self-sabotage, which is probably 100% of people, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
You know, I think that we all do that. And I think that one of the key things is to be aware that you're doing it. You know, you've got to pick yourself up on it. I'm just going to hand the mic over to you for a sec so I can have a drink.
Yeah, no worries. So, you know, this is, and I love this because this is how it really does happen. You know, we, as business owners, right, we're looking from the outside. It's almost like we're doing all this work and we know that our gifts are worthy, but then we start looking at it going, is this good enough? Is it good enough for someone else to want? Or why would they buy this? Why would anyone buy from me? Like, how many of us have asked that? I mean, seriously. And it's funny because, you know, I talk often about in my shows and in my daily lives about creating a sexy brand and an offer that's irresistible and knowing your message and grunt testable. And all this stuff is great. These are all strategies and techniques that you can use so that you can launch confidently and have this great brand. But the difference is, if you are actually believing all the garbage inside your head, none of these strategies actually will ever work. They'll never actually work. So what are some steps that people can take actionable when they recognize they're going through this and that monkey chatter starts? How do they get through it and still keep focusing on the prize, which is them and the values that they offer?
Yeah, good question. There are a few steps we can do. Like I said, the first step has to be awareness. You've got to pick yourself up on it and go, I'm doing it again. All right. And that awareness is key to everything else that follows. Sorry. And I think that some of the things that we need to do are all positive things. So we need to focus on the facts, because that little voice is not the truth. That little voice is our self-doubt rearing its head. So focus on the facts. Pretend you're writing your CV for the job of your dreams and list down every amazing trait, every amazing thing you've ever done, all of the qualifications or experience you've got, and really look at them and go, wow, I've done all these things. So own the facts, like, you know, own what you've done and stop doubting that you're capable. And the other one that goes along with that is to stop comparing yourself to other people because so many of us are guilty of this. But what you've got to realize is that what we see out there is people's highlight reels. They're not the grit that they go through. So comparing yourself to what you see people put on as a front really isn't even comparing yourself to a truth, is it?
Wow. Okay. So this is big because this really just brings us up to me. You know, she said 3 big things. So it's awareness, focusing on the facts, and stop comparing. And if you think about all of us that are, you know, we're looking at everyone from a really rose-colored glasses, because we don't know what's going on in their life. No one knows. No one knows what goes on in my life. I don't know what goes on in your life, but you might be sitting here going, oh, wow, everything's so great for them, but it's not great for me. And I think that is one of the biggest that we run into, is that we compare people's successes, but we only choose, it's what we're choosing to see, right? We choose to see what we want. And what if you could just be totally aware and choose to know that every one of us, and I say this all the time, Kathi, every one of us we're either in a shitstorm, we're coming out of one, or going back in. It's just the cycle. So once you get used to the idea, and then sometimes the shitstorm, the big one could be like smaller, and the other one's like going out of it, it's like, whoa, it's years. And you're like, oh, why did it happen again? That's just normal. Right? That's life, everyone. Like, we are not put on this world or this earth and everything just, rolls out like red carpet. You may think that about a lot of people, but you don't know what goes on. You don't know how hard they work at it. So I think it's the best advice is compare, Victoria called it comparisonitis, right? No comparisonitis. We start comparing ourselves. Then we're like, oh, well, she looks better in that. Or, man, I didn't say that very well. But see, the whole point about being a sexy brand and a unique person, it's knowing your uniqueness and totally being you. Like, I love this the most. Like, if you can imagine, what if there's only 1,000 people that loved everything about you? 1,000 out of 7.6 billion in this world. That's a pretty good factor of people, and then what if you were able to offer your services or your product because they love you as the uniqueness? That's what I love about, development of sexy brands. And what this actually means, Kathi, is getting through all this head stuff to really shine and leave your impact. And so can you share more about what is the impact that you want to leave on the world and the work that you do now, because you see it and you can help look down at others and go, that's what you're doing. Let's move through that.
Yeah, look, it is so important to me, because I truly spent about 30 years hiding myself. I wore wigs, right? I spent thousands and thousands of dollars to get human hair wigs made that suction capped to my head so they would not move. And I lived in a town for a lot of that time that had 40 degrees heat. Now, that's Celsius, people, not Fahrenheit. So I don't know if you can even imagine how difficult that was. And I did it because I was scared of what other people thought of me. And that 30 years just ground down on me. And add to that, I was carrying around this giant secret because I was petrified I was going to be found out.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome again, right? Actually was imposter, because under that wig, I was bald, and I was petrified of other people's judgments because of the judgments I'd got as a child. So back to the childhood trauma, see. But then I realized, and that toxic man I followed across the country did one amazing thing for me. He taught me self-acceptance, because he himself had had childhood trauma and had learnt in his own way to accept who he was, and to know that other people's opinion shouldn't matter, shouldn't have anything to do with your own self-belief. So that was the most valuable lesson, and obviously why I was meant to be with him, because it changed everything for me. That realization that I didn't have to care what other people thought meant I no longer had to hide. I could accept who I was and what I looked like, and bugger anybody else's opinion of that. And then I could start being authentic. So the secret appeared, the weight lifted off my shoulders, and I got my head tattooed to celebrate it, right?
Yeah,
and then
nice.
Not long after is when the Baldwarrior was born, because that whole journey has led up to self-acceptance. And that's exactly what I want to help other people find. And I feel like it's a calling for me, because I feel like my whole life has been gearing up to me learning these things so that I can help other people not go through 30 years of pain, for God's sake. Maybe just a little bit of pain, because I think our pain can be our purpose or our passion. But, certainly get over it and get through it and learn from it much quicker than what I did without any help. So that's really my passion. And I'm also really passionate about businesses and entrepreneurship because I've always had that in my blood. So doing what I do now, I get to combine the two. I get to help business people really grow and get stronger in their business, but also in their own self-esteem, their own self-acceptance and self-awareness, and help them grow to be a better human being, and then help them impact the world in their own way, following their passion. And it's such exciting work. I'm in love with it.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really, it's like, it's so different than, you've been in 25 years of accounting, but now all of a sudden we've got an accountant who understands that you as the business owner is going to self-sabotage your finances. We just know it. You're going to do it. And then, having someone that sees that, not just let me come in and do your books. It's like, no, let me come in and look at your business. What are you doing? What are the choices you're making? And then, woo, that's a weird choice. Why'd you make that? Let's talk about your history. And then you realize, and you can now bring it up to this business owner, like, look, there's a reason why you're sabotaging everyone's leaving. It's because you've got, you don't believe that everyone deserves to stay around with you because you have everyone left you when you were younger. Like, let's help fix that. Like, that's a really powerful, USP, if you will. We're talking marketing terms. Like, how do we go, wow, my accountant not only works on my books and helps me make better profits and organizes my profit margins, but also helps me work in my head to clear out the bullshit so I can keep it. That's powerful.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's incredible work.
I think you need both to succeed. To truly succeed, you have to look at both sides. One won't stand alone without the other.
Yeah, and I know that there's many here that are listening to this or watching this a live stream going, wow, that's me. I do it all the time. Like, accept that it happens and now get it and be aware. She gave you 3 things: awareness, focus on the facts, and stop comparing. Those are really big 3 simple things that if we're completely aware of it, and now we can help change that. And I absolutely love this. So what I'd love to hear, Kathi, can you please share with everyone like where they can find you, what's going on with you right now, so that anyone that's watching is like, ooh, I want an accountant that can work in my head or help me move through this moment and then help me maintain my business structures. Where can they find you?
Well, number one is creedlinks.com. All of my links are right there. But honestly, if you go online into Facebook or LinkedIn and search the Baldwarrior, you will find me. There's only one Baldwarrior, and it's me. And so I'm working LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. You get to talk to other business people without a lot of the mess that's around a lot of the other social media. So please connect with me there, or come to my Baldwarrior pages on Facebook. And I have loads of stuff for any type of person. Even if you're not a business owner, guys, there are loads and loads of things that I have done for individuals around stopping self-sabotage and starting self-love, removing toxic people out of your life, all really important steps to being your best version.
Yeah, I love that. And especially even kids, like if parents become aware of what they're doing, they're going to realize what they're doing to their kids. I love that so much. Okay, so Kathi, we have to do the 3 main questions, the rapid fire 3 questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, red or white?
Ooh, red.
Yes. Tabasco or sriracha?
Oh, sriracha.
And last but not least, beach or mountains?
Mountains.
All right, you guys got it. I love it. I always am eager to hear, because I actually love them all, but I lean on favorites. I'm a Gemini, so I lean on different favorites back and forth. But it gives us a really good idea of who we got. It's funny. I love this, Kathi. We the first time I met you, it was in Perth, wasn't it?
I think it was in Bali, actually. I came to watch.
Is that the first time?
Yeah.
When you came to the event.
You saw me on camera first in Christopher's office. He was building your funnels, and I was past going, hi.
So love it. It's so great. Like, everyone that follows me knows exactly who Chris is. He's like incredible. In fact, he's responsible for one of these. I've got 2. We're working on the 3rd, but he's touched every single funnel I've ever had. And that's the, luxuries of having an amazing human son in your life, and you get to connect with all these great people. And that's how we met. You came to an event, and we've done so much together in the development of your brand and the launch of the Baldwarrior program. I mean, your show that you've launched, like, I'm honored honored to actually see this pull through and thread it through. I know you were just here in Bali. Now you're coming and meeting us in Orlando. We've got a big event coming up in Orlando. Like, we're in a 25,000 square foot mansion. It's mind-boggling. Kathy's going to be a speaker there. So, you know, we do have some day tickets as well that we've opened up for that event because we're sold out. Kathi will be a speaker, and she's going to actually be talking about this, you know, self-sabotage and about imposter syndrome, how to make it through. And so you can definitely find Kathi on Creed Links, but also if you want to come to our event and see her in person and some of the other amazing human beings and entrepreneurs that are going to be there, I want to welcome you to also you can go to Swan Links and check that out as well. But Kathi, it's so great to have you. I really, truly do appreciate it. We're heading out today from all the way to the USA on our little media tour that we are taking across the US. We're on a media and PR tour for the Unstoppable family with Hanalei. In fact, let me show everyone. Many people, if any of you guys watch this, has seen this book here. You've seen this book, right, Kath?
I have. It's incredible, this book. I saw the very first prototype and it blew me away. Blew me away. And having raised a child with the same sort of mindset, having that resource when he was a young person would have been phenomenal. Parents out there, you need to jump on this.
I'm really excited about it because this is the pre-launch. We're releasing it. It's being published by a big publisher this year, but we've been asked so much by, like, guys, can we just get this book? And so we're doing the tour. We're going to be doing a lot of interviews, and this is the How to Be and Raise an Unstoppable Kid. It was illustrated by Hanalei, because others have asked, how have you raised her, and how has she gotten to where she is, and how did you treat teach her as a conscious parent? And so we put the book together, and then we decided that we were going to mirror it together with a video course of Hanalei's teachings on the Happy Bucket Challenge that's inside here, all these cool little experiences that the kids do. And we put together a video course. So now we're on this big release. So if anyone does want it, you guys, you can get this book now. It's in digital version. Anyone that gets the digital version, you'll be the first to know when the pre-launch of the physical books are out. But then you'll also be able to get access to the video version as well, or the video course as well on conscious parenting. And literally it's under $8. So it's worth getting this. You can print it, you can color it, your kids can work on it. But we're excited about that. So that's what we're up to. We're leaving today, heading back to the USA, and we'll be all the way from Arizona, where we'll be on a Hollywood show. We'll be in a talk show. We're going to Burning Man. We're going to get wild and crazy at Burning Man. And then we're going to be in an RV all the way across the United States, all the way to New York City Fashion Week, and down to Orlando. It's going to be absolutely insane, but totally unstoppable. And we'd love to see any of you guys that are along the journey or along the way. And we can get you, we're bringing hard copies, physically bringing some, if you guys want to get access to. But we're having a lot of fun. I'm excited to see you, Kathi, at the end of the month as well. And thanks for being here, my lady. Like, really, thank you for sharing your story, your essence, who you are, you know, what you believe in, and the gifts that you're sharing with others is just so incredible. So I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rhonda, for having me. And I just say to everybody out there, what I talked about tonight and it being rooted in your childhood, this Unstoppable Kids program will help your children grow up not having those same issues that we've grown up with. It will change their lives. The self-belief that you can instill in them now will form them and help shape how they see themselves. It's so, so important. I'm 100% behind the Unstoppable Kids movement. I think they're amazing, as is Hanalei.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. And again, you guys, you can actually get it on, if you just go to unstoppablefamily.com, you can grab it there, or on Swan Links, you can get access to it. But thank you again, Kathi. It's so amazing to see you here and have you here on this show. I'll leave everyone with one thing. If you're going to create a brand, create a sexy brand. And if you're going to be anything, be unstoppable! Woo! Bye, everyone. Have a great one. We'll see you next episode.
Bye.